Truth about how Caryn Chandler sabotaged Matt Roloff's 21-year-old fiancée. LPBW update. For more than 2 decades, viewers thought they knew the story. A family farm. A marriage that ended. A new woman who stepped into the picture quietly and stayed in the background. Or at least that is what it looked like on the surface. But behind the cameras, behind the edited scenes, and behind the carefully chosen words, there's a version of events that fans are only now beginning to question. This is not just a story about love or betrayal. This is a story about power, influence, timing, and a relationship that many believe never stood a fair chance. For 21 years, Matt Roloff was married to Amy Roloff. Their relationship was complicated, emotional, and very public. When their marriage ended, fans expected a period of healing, reflection, and distance. What they did not expect was how quickly another woman seemed to step into a position of influence. That woman was Caryn Chandler. Caryn was not a stranger who appeared out of nowhere. She worked on the farm for years. She knew the family dynamics. She knew the stress points. She knew Matt during some of his weakest moments. And that is where this story truly begins. Because before Caryn became known as Matt Roloff's partner, there was another woman in his life. A woman much younger. A woman who, according to people close to the situation, believed she was building a future with him. A woman who many now refer to as the 21-year-old fiancée that history quietly erased. This is the truth about how that relationship unfolded. And how it may have been sabotaged before it ever had a chance to survive. When Matt Roloff first started dating again after his divorce, he was vulnerable. His identity had been wrapped in family, marriage, and the farm for decades. Suddenly, all of that was changing. During this time, he reportedly connected with a much younger woman who brought something different into his life. Energy. Admiration. Hope. She was not part of the farm drama. She was not tied to old arguments or unresolved resentment. She saw Matt as a man, not as a broken marriage. According to insiders, this relationship moved quickly. Too quickly for some. The age gap raised eyebrows. The seriousness raised alarms. But Matt, by several accounts, was genuinely invested. He talked about the future. He talked about commitment. And he talked about leaving the past behind. This is where Caryn Chandler re-enters the story. Caryn had access. She was trusted. She was already emotionally close to Matt long before the public ever knew. And unlike the young woman, Caryn understood the farm, the business, the family politics, and most importantly, Matt himself. People close to the situation claim Caryn began planting seeds of doubt. Not dramatic confrontations. Not obvious ultimatums. Subtle comments. Careful questions. Concerns framed as protection. Is she really with you for the right reasons? Does she understand your health issues? What happens when the cameras turn off? Are you sure she is ready for this life? These were not attacks. They were whispers. And whispers are often more powerful than accusations. At the same time, Caryn positioned herself as stable, loyal, and safe. She had been there for years. She knew the challenges. She knew the stress of filming. She knew what it took to support Matt through surgeries, business decisions, and family conflict. Without ever saying it directly, the contrast became clear. One woman represented risk. The other represented control. Sources suggest that Caryn also maintained close communication with other people in Matt's inner circle. Opinions were shared. Doubts were reinforced. Concerns became consensus. Slowly, the narrative shifted from excitement about a new chapter to fear of making a mistake. The young fiancé reportedly began to feel the change. Matt became distant. Conversations became cautious. Plans became vague. The warmth that once defined their connection cooled into uncertainty. And she never fully understood why. Because sabotage does not always look like destruction. Sometimes it looks like patience. Eventually, the relationship ended. Quietly. No big announcement. No dramatic fallout on camera. Just a disappearance. A chapter closed without explanation. And not long after, Caryn Chandler was no longer just a farm manager or trusted employee. She was Matt Roloff's partner. To many fans, the timeline felt uncomfortable. To others, it felt inevitable. But for those who believed the younger woman was pushed out rather than left behind, the ending felt unfair. Over time, Caryn's role in Matt's life became more visible. She traveled with him. She spoke on his behalf. She influenced major decisions. And she became a permanent fixture in the Roloff universe. Yet questions lingered. Did Caryn protect Matt from a mistake? Or did she remove competition? Was this about love? Or about positioning? What makes this story so compelling is that there is no single smoking gun. No leaked message. No recorded confession. Only patterns. Timing. Behavior. And the voices of those who watched it happen quietly from the sidelines. Even today, fans debate Caryn's intentions. Some see her as supportive and misunderstood. Others see her as calculated and controlling. The truth likely lives somewhere in between. Human relationships are rarely simple, and power dynamics rarely get discussed honestly. But one thing is clear. The 21-year-old fiancé never had the same access, the same influence, or the same protection. She was an outsider walking into a world already shaped by years of loyalty, resentment, and unfinished business. And in that world, she was always going to lose. This is not just a story about Caryn Chandler or Matt Roloff. It is a story about what happens when love intersects with power, when vulnerability meets strategy, and when a future is decided by voices the audience never hears. Because sometimes, the biggest moments do not happen on camera. They happen in private conversations, in careful timing, and in choices that change lives forever. And the question remains, if that relationship had been given space, honesty, and time, would the ending have been different? Or was the outcome decided long before the cameras ever stopped rolling? That is the truth fans are still searching for.